Boker Tov, Shavua Tov. Today's daf is Daf Chav קידושין, first day of Slichas. Tanya Rav Shimon Yochai Omer. What does Rav Shimon say here? What was our discussion? We're talking. Yesterday's more was talking about Gilgul Shvua. That even though there are limited cases in which you have to swear Shvua D'Oraisa, for example, Moda B'Miktsas, or the case of a Sota, who if they're Kini and Steer with two witnesses and saw her go into a secluded room, and she denies everything, we make her swear. But it says over there, Amen, Amen. So from Amen, Amen, we see double lashon that not only does she swear on that, but she swears on other things that she's not chayav. For example, he can't make her normally swear on a possible adultery that she committed after engagement, before they got married. Let's say she was an arusa. I hadn't slept with her yet. I didn't sleep with her until the Nisuim was consummated. But he suspected that she committed adultery before they got married. That's not a case of soti. He can't make her swear for that. However, once he can make her swear on things that took place after they got married, then what's called gilgul shvu, you can roll it over and make her make another shvu there too. We talk about a case of here. We'll talk about a case of shutfin. Normally, I can only make you swear if you were moda b'miktsas, or for example, I have one aid. Let's say I say you owe me $100 and you deny it, but I have one witness to it. Two witnesses, that's it. You have to pay me. There's nothing strong to witness. Let's say I have one witness and you have to swear. That's a shvua d'oraisa. But let's say we're just partners and we always suspect one another of stealing a little bit from the kitty, right? Can I make you swear there? There's no, I don't know that you really did, but we just suspect one another. While they're partners, yes, but after they break up the partnership, they cannot be made to, they can't make a shvua d'oraisa. But if you can make them swear for some other thing, by the way, I lent you $1,000. The guy says I paid you back $600, and I only owe you the other $400, right? So on the part that he denies, he has to make a shvua d'oraisa. So if he makes a shvua d'oraisa, then we could be megalgal up even a shvua that he doesn't have to swear. So you can make him swear on the partnership or whatever. So here the Gemara says, okay, we learned from Sota. How do we know things that are like mamon? So he says, well, we had a kal v'chomer. That's what we left at the top of the page. Tanya Rav Shimon Yochai Omer. So here the questions are at the beginning of the line. Ashken, the third line on the page. Ashken b'vadai. That's where normally a case of a claim is where you started off with a vadai claim. Suffolk manon. What about where it's only a suffix? For example, maybe if I had a vadai claim, let's say I say I lent you $1,000 and you deny the whole thing. But I said, I know I gave you that $1,000. I'm sure of the claim. That's not a shvua d'oraisa, but it's a shvua d'rabbanan of gilgul shvua. So for example, let's say I said, in January I gave you $1,000 and you deny half of it. So you chayav shvua d'oraisa. But I said in February I gave you another $1,000 and then you deny the whole thing. So even though Menator, you don't have to swear the February because you deny the whole thing, but once I can make you make a shvua on January's, which is a moda mitzvahs, I can make you swear on the February. But that's where I had a body claim. I know for sure you took the money. What about in a case where I'm not even sure? I just said, well, you've been a partner with me. How do I know you didn't take something out of petty cash without my knowledge? So the Gemara says, Ashkan Badai. I understand Badai. If there's a Badai claim, I learn out Mammon from Sota. They're just like by Soti of Gilgul Shvua, the same thing by money. Ashkan Bavadai something. How do I know a suffix if I only have? I'm not even sure. It's a possibility of my claim is only a possibility. I'm not even sure myself. So here he says, Tanya B'Shem Yochai Omer never shvuas b'chutz. Talk about a shvua you make outside the base of mikdash. Never shvua b'fnim inside the base of mikdash. What shvua do you make inside the base of mikdash? The sota. We take the sota. We take to the base of mikdash. Ma shvua amur b'fnim, just like the shvua of the sota, which is inside the base of mikdash. Also a suffix of Bavadai. A suffix is like a vadai too. We're not sure 100%. He doesn't know for sure that she committed adultery, but it's like Vaishas make shvua. Av shvua more b'chutz also a suffix of vadai. Even though, since we learn out from Sota, by Sota, suffix is like a vadai. By Mammon also, suffix is like a vadai. So not only do I make a gilgul shvua, if there's a shvua d'oraisa like moda b'miktsas or eid echad kenegdo, where I have one witness on my side, that's a shvua d'oraisa. And I also have a shvua which is not d'oraisa. For example, you deny the whole thing. So there, gilgul shvua, I've got a claim, but even when my claim is only a possibility, I think maybe you have taken some money, make a gilgul shvua there too, because just like by Sota, we say suffix about that, here also something about that. How far does gilgul shvua go? In other words, Once I make you, we've said that if you have to swear a shvur min Torah, I can make you swear other ones too. Well, how far do you go? Swear to me that the sun is up, the moon is up. How far do how far does that go? I'm gonna be Rav. Swear to me that you're not my Eved Kanani. Maybe I'm claiming that you're an Eved. You belong to me. You're an Eved Kanani. That's like you're calling him a guy. You're calling him an Eved Kanani. You put him in chayim for that. Kiratanya, like we say, the Tanan. So not Kiratanya, the Tanan. If you call somebody an Eved, like you call him a guy, even though you put in chayim, you call him a mamzer. Suffix zerban. Like some people used to call a mamzer. They call somebody a mamzer. Get malchus for that. You're motzi shame. Pardon?
I said, oh boy.
Oh boy. Right. Russia. You're already Melchayv. If you just call him Russia, the guy's entitled to hurt your parnasa, to hurt your income. He's entitled, and as Bezdin wouldn't. Other cases, you put him in chayrim. Bezdin person gives him malchus. Melchayv and Bezdin doesn't. It's not obligated to take an interest in this case, but he's allowed to hate him and to hurt his parnasa. And take away his business, put up signs. This guy's a bad guy. If you call somebody Russia, the point is that that's not you're not going to. If a guy says, "Swear to me that you're not my Eved Kanani," that's not something that we would say you can make a shvur for. That just the opposite. Like the accuser is wrong over here. Elam Rabbi Shavali Shal Nimkus Eved Ivri. Swear to me that you weren't insulting as Eved Ivri. In other words, I claim you're an Eved Ivri for me. You owe me 3 or 4 more years of work. You owe me work. We have a contract. You're an Eved Ivri. So that's a good claim. That's like motive mixes. His motive maybe that he sold them for a while, or 60, but he said, I already worked off the 6 years or whatever. I worked part of it. That's a good shvua. Why do you say that's a shvua? Shvua's gilgul. That's like saying you owe me money. You owe me 3 years of work. Well, I'll go if it's motive mixes, or there was one aide who said he was an Eved Kanan, an Eved Ivri. That's why is that gilgul shvua? Gilgul shvua is something where there's no shvur d'oraisa over here. It's only shvur that's only swear about something else. A shvur d'rabbanan, where you only swear because we have the rule of gilgul shvur, which is a halach in the Torah. But you can make a shvur which on its own would not be a shvur d'oraisa. So this is a good claim. The claimer owes you owe me money. It's just like you owe me $1,000. You owe me 3 years of work. So if he has an aid with him, that would be a shvur d'oraisa. It's not a gilgul shvur. That's Rabba to make the Amarava Eved Ivri Gufa Kani. Eved Ivri Rabba holds that an Eved Ivri, you own the body. You own him actually. So it's not just a question of owning work. He actually owns himself. That's like Karka. That's like Karka. Karka we already learned he can make a shvur. What was the whole point of the Gemara? That normally ain't shvur al karkos, but if you claim it's both Karka and Metaltalin, if it's both, says if he can swear on the Metaltalin, he can make him swear on the shvur also. So what's in Eved and Karka? Says Mao the same. The Karka would have the initiate them as sometimes people sell the property quietly because they don't want people to know that they've lost their assets. In Misa Zav, unless they call it, people wouldn't know about it. So if by Karka you might say you must make a shvur on that too, because be forced him to admit it. And maybe he sold it, he didn't have a high, but in the case of an Eved, in Misa Zav, if he would have sold himself as an Eved Kanani, so Kolaslate, people would have known about it, or an Eved Ivri rather. Now people would know about it. Today, do you hear this guy sold himself or was sold by Bezdin as an Eved Ivri? People would know about it. So you might think it shouldn't be made to swear something that far out. In other words, once Reuben can be forced to swear to Shimon about a shvur d'oraisa like motiv b'mixas or no, he could also make to swear that he's not his Eved Ivri. Eved Ivri, we already know that if he owns him like his property, like Karka, we already learned about Karka, he could swear on Karka with the gilgul shvur. The answer is good. By Karka, it makes sense to say make him swear because maybe he sold it privately and we want to force him to swear about the Karka so we know if it was really sold or not. But over here, if he would have sold himself as an Eved Ivri, according to Rav that he owns the guf, you might think people would know about it. So there's no need to, maybe you couldn't force him to make a shvur in a case like this, because if he would have been sold as an Eved Ivri, people would know about it. Therefore, he shouldn't have to make a shvur. Kamashmon, you still make a shvur. That's the point of Rav Yuda's, Rav's memra, that when the Gemara said, how far a gilgul shvur go, even if you accuse the other guy of being an Eved for you, and you didn't, and the other guy denies it, and he could be made to make a shvua, not a shvua based just on itself, but if he had to make a shvua for something else, like a morav mitzvahs, he could be made to make a shvua on this as well as build a shvua. Now the Gemara is going to talk about chalipin. Chalipin, we know, is we exchange one item for another. You learn that from Rus, from the story, right? They made a deal when with Iftzon, with Boaz, that that he made a deal that he'll take over the claim on Rus, and they did it with a barter, with a shoe, right? Exchange the shoe. Shalach in those days, that's how they made a king. So the chalipin is really an exchange or a barter. Now the Mishnah says, anything which is made as a payment for something else, meaning over here we're bartering something. I give you A and you give me B. So the way it works is, as soon as one person made a kinyan, the classic example is what we do every year with Pesach. What happens at Pesach when you sell the chametz? The rabbi gives you his handkerchief or his pen, right? He hands it to you, and in return, you take it. In return, all your chametz, or the rights to your chametz, technically, the rights to sell your chametz is given to him, right? Wherever your chametz is, you don't bring your chametz to the shul, right? Just it's wherever it is. That's what it means. Anything which is made as a payment for something else, once you get the pen or the handkerchief, this chayiv zeh b'chalipin. It's also called the kinyan sudar, handkerchief, because usually it's done with a handkerchief. That's usually how it's done. So the other guy's chayiv. That means, let's say it wasn't the case of chametz. Let's say it was a case of, you give me your gold pen, and in return, I'll give you my car. Okay, so as soon as you give me the gold pen, you get my car. Now, if the car is burnt up, the car is stolen, it's your problem, even though you didn't even see the car yet. That's the other guy, it's yours. So now wherever it is. Okay, so the famous Gemara in the Zikin and Bava about, I'll exchange my ox for your cow, right? For your cow. Then they found the cow was pregnant, and you find the cow had given birth and the flood died or whatever. So the question is, who's responsible for that? So here is it the owner of the ox who acquired the part of the rest? So here he says, I'll give you my ox for your cow, or chamor b'shor, I'll give you my donkey for your shore. As soon as the one guy made an exchange, as soon as he took the I'm exchanging, let's say, my shore for your par. As soon as you give me the par, you acquire the shore wherever it is. It's your responsibility right now. Now the Gemara is going to assume what normally uses payment? Money, right? So it's called nasa dam be'acher. Anything which is used as payment, as soon as one person got it, the other guy got it. Now, normally, when we think of payment of money in our modern times, if I give you the money, I acquire the item, right? That's how we think of things. There's a famous whether you need Mashiach on a movable or not. We know that an Ebed or Karka, according to Rav, maybe even an Ebed Ivri, is nicked to be Kesef Shtar Chazaka. That means money alone. If I buy your house and I give you the cash, it's mine. That's all. I don't need to make a Chazaka. Kesef Shtar Chazaka. We said it's Karka's nicked. We said the other day that on the back of Chavav, the Chasam Desh Achayis, which is something that's used for security, like Karka, I can either acquire it by demonstrating ownership, putting a fence around it, putting a lock on it, digging there something, or with a shtar, if that's what we agree on, or kesef, we learned that out of psukim, or whatever we agree on. If I say I need kesef and shtar, fine. But any of them can work, right? They can work. That's for Karka, but not for metaltalin. For metaltalin, technically, if I buy your loaf of bread, you're a store, you have a shop, and I buy you're a bakery or something, I buy your loaf of bread. If I give you money, but I didn't pick it up yet, I didn't acquire it. I don't acquire it until I pick it up. And she goes, now, is that now Raisa? Rishlaki says that's the Raisa. Money doesn't work for metaltalin. But the other says money does work for metaltalin, except in Barabara Medic Zera, don't use money. If we said the famous thing that I buy your silo full of grain and I give you money for it now, and I'll pick it up next week. Meanwhile, a fire breaks out. You're the owner, so you say, what do I care? Let it burn down. It's not mine, right? The whole silo belongs to the buyer. Why should I even try to put out the fire? Am I going to get anything for it? No, it's his problem. Right? So that shouldn't happen. The rabbi said, no, the guy doesn't acquire it until he actually makes machine, until he pulls it, until he takes it to his possession. So even though he paid for it, it's still the seller's responsibility. And if the price is also the seller's advantage, if the price goes up, he gets a higher price. Because until you made Mashiach, it doesn't count. So the point is, though, that money doesn't work as a purchase when it comes to the Talmud. Whether it's the rice or drop on it, it doesn't work. What about as a barter? That's what it sounds like. Anything which is normally used for payment, if you, let's say you use the money, though, not to pay for it, but as a bartering instrument. If I give you the money, you give me, the item will be owned to me by anyway. Can that work? So that's apparently what the Mishnah means. Says whatever payment, he gives an example of a shore for a porach. Says the Gemara 3 lines from down page. Chalifa minor. What are we speaking about chalifa? Not beya. Are we talking about a coin? Anything? Because it says the Mishnah doesn't say. It says zeh b'chalifa. The other guy's responsible. Responsible for what? For are we talking about where the medium of exchange was money? I give you money, and in return you're going to give me the item. Again, understand the difference between paying for something versus bartering the money. Bartering means I give you item A, you give me item B. Can money be used as a barter? Well, we've learned in Bava Metzia that you cannot use it as a barter because bartering is only with a davar masuyim, something which is a definite item, right? And something which is tangible here. When people get money, they don't want it. If I give you a 100 shekel bill, you're not using it for the paper. If tomorrow the government says that the 100 shekel bill is void, we're not using it anymore, it becomes nothing. So you're thinking about what it's worth, not what you're not thinking about what the coin is. It's intrinsic value. That's the word I'm looking for. Pardon? Yeah, what it'll buy for you. You're thinking about what it's stamped on. What does it say? Is it a nickel? Is it $1? Is it a quarter? Is it a half $1? Is it $1? What you're thinking about what it'll buy for you, what it's worth today. You're not thinking about the intrinsic value. That's the word I was looking for. It's an intrinsic value. Bartering is only with an intrinsic value, a real item, an item. I give you my shoe for your pair of pants. So you're looking at the pants, you're looking at the shoe. So the Gemara says, Chalif and minor, what are we talking about? A matbeya coin? Shmamina matbeya nasa chalifin? Is that what you want to say over here? You can use a coin for chalifin? Again, chalifin works as an exchange. You can't use, the rabbi can't give you a coin and in return you give him your chametz. It doesn't work with a coin. Because with a coin, you're thinking of what's it worth. You're not thinking about the intrinsic value. You don't, not what it's worth for the coin. You're thinking about what the coinage is worth. What it's worth. Like Kurt says, what it'll buy for you.
You see that the coin has metal value.
Right, but you're not thinking about that. It does have metal value. We know it does have that, but we know, in our day, remember the quarter used to be a silver, and then it got a lot of it started turning red on the sides because they put copper in there. So you're thinking about what it'll buy. Like Kurt has a good definition, what it'll buy for you. Not you're thinking about what it'll buy for you. You're not thinking of its intrinsic value. So the Gemara over there, Paskins, that matbeya cannot be made chalifin. So what do you mean over here? Calling nasadam me'acher, if it's used for money for something else, it can use as an exchange. Can it mean money? Money doesn't work. Matbeya nasa matbeya chalifin. We've learned that it doesn't. You don't know. This is what it means. The Mishnah is called nasadam me'acher. It doesn't mean if it's used as money. Anything which is used as payment, which is you think is money. No, anything which is assessed to use as a payment for something else, meaning it's assessed, it's got a value, a shoe, a pair of pants, suspenders, whatever, anything, any article, a book, any article which can be assessed for its intrinsic value, that could be used for chalifin. So once you got the pen or the handkerchief that the rabbi gives you, right? Once you acquire it, so you're with the exchange that you're giving him the rights to the chametz. Is his responsibility not? Or in the case of animals, says the Gemara Deken Ami, makes sense what we're talking about. The Tani says Ketzad. Mishnah said anything which is used for payment for something else, once article A goes to person number B, then the article from B is acquired by A automatically wherever it is. When you talk about articles, they cannot be Tani Ketzad. It doesn't say Ketzad. If I gave them money, right? It says yes, because it says what's an example? An example of one animal for another animal means something which can be assessed, not money, which doesn't have an intrinsic value. It does have some coinage, it does have some metal value, but you're not looking at it for that. So going to Shem Be'achar, keeping yourself on the Chayv Leif, and taking up in the Tari case that Hifel Shavim Chor Chamor B'San. Shema Midah. So the Might Salka Daitan, in your Havmina, you thought that you can use money as an exchange, money as an exchange, not as money for payment, but money as an exchange. So the Might is like that Mikar, the Matbei and Asachlit, Matbei could be used as Chalip, and my case is sorry, if that's the case. So how did you understand the Mishnah? If the Mishnah is calling us a Damachim, he said, because he used Lashon of Damim, you thought, money can be used in exchange. So what's the specific case that Hichlef Shor B'Paro Chamor B'Shor? That's not money. Those are animals for one another. My case is Hachakamar. Peiros Nami Abdechit means to say this. In the Havmena we thought, yes, money can be used in exchange, and Peiros could also. And when he says Peiros, Rashi says here, Kol Midi Delave Kli, anything which is not a vessel, pay requires a pay. It doesn't mean fruits, like fruits and vegetables. It means any item which is not a Kli. Like, for example, a Kli could be clothing, but anything which is like meat is not a Kli, right? So that is also called Peiros, right? Anything, an animal is also Peiros. Peiros is the most common item, Peiros, so he calls Peiros, but anything which is not a Kli is used there. Okay, so Peiros not only can money be used as an exchange, as a barter, but also any item which is not a Kli can also be used. It doesn't have to be dafka Kli, like a handkerchief or a pen or something of that sort. It could also be animals. Okay, so this was basar shor b'para. Even the meat of a shor for a para, or basar chamor b'shor, also keeping shezach hazeh describes that b'chalipin. If I exchange one thing for another, as soon as the one person got the first item, the other item automatically belongs to the other person. That's fine. Like of sheshes that say Paris can also do chalipin. In other words, there's a shiloh between this machlok between Nachman of sheshes. Can chalipin be made with Paros, meaning non-shoe, or is it dafka shoe? Nachman says dafka shoe, like we learn out shalaf ishnalo for the pasuk in Rus. So you can understand that's the shot in the Mishnah. Mishnah thought originally you could do it with cash or with anything which makes chalipin, peiros on chalipin. So he gives an example of basar shor b'para or basar chamor b'shor. That's also peiros. That makes sense. He says something more. So the Mishnah says you could either use money or, as an example, you could use other things like peiros. But Rav Nachman or peiros lo the chalipin. Rav Nachman says peiros don't make chalipin. Well, Rav Nachman says my case said the might have in other words, Rav Nachman says peiros can't make chalipin. He learns pasuk literally that chalipin can only be made something like a shoe. Right? Now dafka. That's fine according to Rav Sheshes, but according to Rav Nachman, that means now dafka. So you can't say that the basar shor for a basar shor b'para or basar chamor b'shor is an example of chalipin because you can't do chalipin unless it's a shoe. So what do you mean over here? What's your havmina with the kesef? And he says, Kate said, what's the example of it? It doesn't make any sense. Lord, Nachman or Paris the chalipin might go favor. So what's found in the Mishnah? How do you understand the Mishnah? Money doesn't work, right? Money can't work as a payment. So you say you thought eventually, well, maybe it works as maybe originally you thought it was as an exchange, but the Mishnah doesn't make sense because you give an example of case of para b'shor or exchange the shor for the para or the chamor for the shor. How's that example? If you were talking about money, you can't say okay. The example would be either money or you exchanged peiros, you chalipin with peiros. But according to Nachman, that doesn't work. Peiros don't make chalipin. You have to use like a shoe. You have to use like a kli, like a shoe. So Michael, what are you going to say? There is kind of money which works like chalipin. What does it mean by that? Normally, you can't pay for something with money and acquire it that way. You can pay with money, but you don't acquire it that way unless you make shisa. Money doesn't work, but there is a case where money does work. How's that? Here's what happened. I sold you my shore. I sold you my ox. Okay. Now you owe me $100, right? And you pulled the shore. You moshech the shore. You owe me the money. Okay, fine. You may continue with the mashiach. Now you owe me $100. Then I say, well, you know what? How much you owe me $100? Do you by any chance have a cow? Not an ox, a cow, a female. Do you have any? Yeah. How much is it worth? $100? I'll tell you what. You owe me $100. I'll take the para instead. So in that case, it does work. Normally, you can't exchange money for an item. Money can be payment, but you can't exchange money for an item. It can't work as a barter. But in this case, it works. How? You owe me $100 for a previous. If you don't owe me the $100, you can't use money as chalip, as a barter. Money doesn't work. Works payment doesn't work as a barter. It doesn't work as a medium of exchange of acquisition. You can't say, give me the money and you automatically acquire the item. No, you have to make opinion. But over here, where you owe me the money already, you owe me the money already. Why? Because I sold you my shore. You took the shore. You owe me the $100. Now I say, you owe me $100. You by any chance have a donkey? Let's say, how much is the donkey worth? $100. I'll tell you what. Keep the $100. I'll take the chamor. Then it does work. Why does it work? We'll see. There is a kind of money which normally money doesn't work. There is a kind of money that works for a case of I exchanged the value of the shore for a para, meaning you owe me the money for a shore already because I sold it to you. You owe me the money, and I'll say, you know what? Instead of the money, give me the para. That works. My time. Why does that work? Because Rav Nachman here holds like Rav Yochanan the Omer Dvar Torah Ma'askonos. We said before, why doesn't money work for metalkon? Rav Shapiro says it doesn't work midaraisa because midaraisa you have to have mashiach. It says akana miyada misecha. According to Rav Yochanan, it works Torah, except Rabbi said it shouldn't work. That I shouldn't tell you that the silo of your food of your grain that you bought from me last week burnt down. You're tough luck. So it stays in my rishus. So the rabbi said, Torah, most Minotaur money does work. Why does he need Mashiach? Zera Shema Yomalo, and this I shouldn't tell you, the seller shouldn't say, oh, the stuff you bought from me last week for $100, you gave me the $100, it burnt down. Can't say that. Why? Because you don't acquire it until you actually take it. So it's my responsibility until you take it. That's Xera Rabbanan. Milsa the Shchiach in a regular case goes to Rabbanan, made such Xera. Milsa lo Shchiach lo goes to Rabbanan. This case, where it's a Milsa lo Shchiach, meaning, what's a Milsa lo Shchiach? That you didn't just buy something, you didn't give me the $100, you didn't give me the para in exchange for the $100. You owed me the $100 from a previous thing. I sold you the shore. You owed me $100. Then I said, instead of the $100 that you owe me, give me the para instead. In a case like that, it does work. That's the most shchicha. The Rabbanan did make it there, and there the money does acquire it. So he says that's what he means to say. There is a case. That's how Rav Nachman's going to learn the Mishnah. There is a case. Sometimes money. We're talking about money. Once I acquire this, I'm chayv. How do I acquire this? Meaning, if in this weird case, only dafka in this case, right? In this case, where I tell you, the money that you owe me before, keep that money and I'll take the para instead. Then it does work. That money, then it works automatically. Meaning, you owe me $100 from the previous sale. I sold you a short $100. You owe me $100. You know what? Keep the $100. I'll take the para. And then I own the par right away. That's what it means. In that case, it does work. So according to Nachman, that's the case here. Why? Because Minotaur money works. The rabbi said it doesn't work for a payment. But in this case, it's a milslo shchicha. The rabbi said, even the rabbis would agree, the rabbis didn't make xera here. And the money actually works. The money that you owe me, that works. And I own the para right now, as soon as we agree. You don't own it. According to the halacha, you don't own it. You picked it up. You picked it. Yes. Okay. Normally you'd say Mashiach does work there, but I would say that the store, since that you in a store today, the owner of the store, the seller, does not want you to acquire it until you pay for it. So that's why you wouldn't acquire it until you actually paid for it. But the acquisition, if he would agree, that's a means of acquisition. Paying for it, let's say you go into a store and you just gave him cash and say, here's the money, I'll go grab it off the shelf. You don't acquire it until you actually picked it up, because that's the Mashiach. Now, according to Shlakish, that's Minotaur. According to Belchan, Minotaur, if you pay for it cash, you own it right away. But I don't want to, let's say I go and I pay him $100, and then I got a case of, beer in the back there. Here's $100. Okay, it's I own it. Now I go to the back, it's gone. Somebody stole it meanwhile. Right, so that's too bad, right? It would be Minotaur. So the rabbi said, no, you don't acquire it till you actually get it. So that the owner shouldn't tell me it was stolen meantime. Understand? So according to Belchan, but Minotaur, the money does work. So here we're saying Minotaur does work. So in this case, which is a milslo shchicha, that you paid for you bought a shore for me. You owe me the $100. Now I said, okay, you owe me $100. Oh, by the way, instead of $100, keep the $100 and I'll take your para. In that case, the exchange does work. that it works as an exchange. Why? Because it's a milestone shchicha. So therefore, the money works like chalipa. It works for me because I bought it from you. Like with the $100 that you owe me, I'm buying the para from you. There, the money does work because Minotaur it works, and this is a weird case, so they didn't make Xera there. So, okay. So, what about according to Rish Lakish? According to Rish Lakish, you can't give that answer. Rish Lakish says that Mashiach is the only way you can acquire metalfin. Money doesn't work at all. So you can't say in this case money works. It doesn't work. Hanifi, if he goes like Rav Sheshes, don't pay himself even fine. So he'll learn like Matashik Rav Sheshes. He'll say like Rav Sheshes learned at the beginning of the Gemara in Amid Beis. What's shot in the Mishnah? The Mishnah thought originally that money would work as an exchange, or Ketzad, or if it's money, or we can work with payers, meaning exchange the meat of a shore for a para. So then he would learn. If he owes like Rav Nachman, Domer payers love the Chalipin. You can't use payers. It's got to be a shoe or maybe something like a shoe, like a kli. Payers love the Chalipin. Mateya lokoni. Mateya doesn't work. Why? Mateya doesn't work. Why? Because Rish Lakish says Menatora Mateya doesn't work at all. But my milk, how is he going to stand the Mishnah? You have to say he holds like Rav Sheshes. That what the payers could make Chalipin, and he understands the Mishnah the first way we understood. In other words, at the end of the day, we understand that the Mishnah means anything which is assessed, for anything which has an intrinsic value, can be used in exchange. A pen, a handkerchief, a shoe, a coat, a hanger, anything can be used as an exchange if it has an intrinsic value. That's the Mishnah. What did the Mishnah mean originally? When we thought it means kedama, it means cash. So how do you understand that cash? Cash can't work. The answer is we said anything it's used in payment, you might think it's cash, or it's actually payers, anything used as payers. That's if the older payers can be chalipin. According to Nachman, payers can't be chalipin. So you have to understand the Mishnah in the way we said it, that sometimes money does work. And since it works in the Torah, it's only Xera Drabanan. The Rabbanan only made Xera milsa shchicha, milsa shchicha. That in this case, in other words, what's the milsa shchicha? That I'm buying something from you, right? So the Rabbanan said, if I buy something from you, if I go into the store and buy your case of beer, money doesn't make it work. It's got to be with I have to make a mashiach. I have to do a physical acquisition. That's what's said in a regular case. But in a case like this, where you owe me the money for a previous purchase, I sold you my shore, and you owe me the $100. Now I say, instead of the $100, I'll take your para. Then that exchange of money for the item, it's a payment. It's not an exchange. It's not a barter. It's actually paying. I'm paying for that money that you owe me. I'm using that to buy your para. So that's what he means to say that there are cases that, according to Rav Nachman, we're saying, what does it mean? It means that yesh davar shein kichalipin. There's sometimes money works like chalipin, but it works really as money, not as chalipin. It works as money, not as chalipin. All right, Rishus Gavoa says the Mishnah. Rishus Gavoa, the Gavoa meaning the base of Mikdash gets title to an item or sells an item, buys or sells with kesef. That's a special Allah, even though it's metalpon. That on metalpon we say needs an acquisition, a physical acquisition. It's only by common items, by common exchange, layman, not the base. You have to make a physical acquisition. Chazaka here doesn't mean only chazaka, it means mashiach also. If it's metal, it's mashiach. If it's karka, it's with actually chazaka. Kesef shtar chazaka. Amiraso legavoa k'miraso legavoa. It's just the chazaka means mashiach because if you're talking about karka, it also works with kesef. But it means for metal, chazaka here means mashiach. Just saying something you're going to give it to the base of Mikdash is like handing it over to Hedjah. In other words, base of Mikdash has a stronger means of acquisition. You just pledge it, it automatically belongs to it. What's that? Gizbar. The Gizbar of Hekdesh and Mos. Let's say he gave some cash for an animal. I feel the of the sofa, even if the animal's at the other end of the world, he acquires it right away because Kesef is all. Kesef acquires. If he gave the owner money, he acquires the part wherever it is, the animal wherever it is. It's only you have to actually make mashiach. You have to pull it. Homer shores Ola. Man says this shore is going to be a carbon Ola. Or buys the Hegdish, I'm giving this house for Hegdish. I feel it so call even if the shore, the animal is somewhere other, or the house is some other place. Kana. The Hedyo low kana, but by a Hedyo, by a commoner, lo kana until you activate shicha on the animal, or be yachzik, or make a chazaka on the house. Mashcho, now listen to this. Mashcho, let's speak with those. So let's say you gave something to Hegdish, or you bought something from Hegdish, and you paid $100. You agreed on $100. And you didn't pay for it. You pulled it. You made mashiach on the item. We just said by hekdesh it works with money, not with mashiach. So let's say I made mashiach was worth $100, and by the time I gave the gizbar the money, I was quoted. I paid for it. I should messiah. I have to give them that sign because it only works. The exchange, the acquisition takes place only with money. So if I made a deal with the Gizbar, I'll buy the salmon for you for $100, and I pulled I didn't give him the $100 yet. By the time I gave him the money, it was worth 200. I got to give him the 200 because that's what it takes. That's when the acquisition takes place. My time, I've been also on a kesef v'kamlo. By Hektish, it says you paid for it. So you paid for it, you didn't acquire it, even though you pulled it. Mushroom Masam, let's say when I pulled it, it was worth 200. By the time I paid for it, it was only worth 100. So does Hektish is out? No, I still have to give him the 200. Why? My time. The rights of a Hektish shouldn't be greater than Hektish. If it was a Hedyot, I'd have to pay 200. But right, if it was a Hedyot, I would have to pay 200 because when I pulled it, it was worth 200. So if I had it, it was worth 200, and we agreed to I pulled it, I acquired. Now later on, when I came to pay, it's only worth 100. Yeah, but when I pulled it was worth 200. So we don't. So the commoner's rights shouldn't be greater than that of Hektish. So that you have to pay that higher amount too. Part of a Messiah. Let's say I paid for it first. I paid it for 200. Well, I paid for it first, and I didn't. I paid for Hektish for 200, and I didn't get a chance to physically take it. Hashem money is only with 100. I still have to give 100. I paid the 200 already. That's when I acquired it. If by the time I got around to schlepping it out, it was only worth 100, too bad for me. My time, it also on the kesef v'kamlo. As soon as I paid for it, that's it. It's mine, wherever it is. The last case, part of them. Let's say I told him we agree with Hektish it's worth 100. I paid him 100. Now by the time I pulled it was worth 200, but the deal was already done. I gave the Hektish the money. I acquired it then. Masha party is fine. The ain't no sell money. He only has to give the 100 that he gave originally. I paid for it 100, it was mine. Now it was worth more. That's my benefit. Why do we say that? If I paid a commoner $100 for an item, right? And we agreed, I paid him for it. By the time I went to pick it up, I took it from me, it was worth 200. What would you say there? Wouldn't you say there also that, well, that I made Mashiach, then it's worth 200, the guy could demand more. So why don't you say also the Koch shouldn't be strong there? It gives the answers by Hedid also. If we agreed on a price and I paid you the money, technically I don't acquire it till later on and it's worth 200 then. But I would get a curse for that because even though paying the money and agreeing to the price is not Machayev me, technically I could say I don't know Chayev to pay until I made Mashiach. But once we agreed on a deal and I went back on the deal, I would get a curse for that. So by commoner also, if we agreed on a price and I took it at $100 and I agreed on $100, in other words, I paid for it $100. I paid for it, we shook hands on it. And later on when I picked it up, it was worth 200, right? Technically I could, the seller could demand 200, but he would be cursed for that. So therefore, in all cases of benefit, usually the base means gets the benefit. Benefit is based once I pulled it, either because the money is what causes the acquisition. So we look at it at the time of the money, unless I pay 200. Unless let's say I pulled when I made Mashiach was worth 200, and by the time I paid for it, it was only worth 100. So that's all I should pay. But we don't want the Koach HaHedit to be stronger than a hector, so we say you should pay the 200. Only in the case where I paid basically, which I already paid the money. And I didn't pull it till later on. At that point, it was worth more. But even in a case of a hedyot, he'd get a mishapar for that. So suffices to pay only the one. Just we'll see the Mishnah. It sounds like anything that a son is responsible to do for his father, men are responsible, women are not. The Gemara is going to come out. That's not what it means. It means any job, any mitzvah that a father has to do for his children, right? The father is responsible, not the mother. Anything that a son has to do for his father, obviously, if a woman's married, she's parted from certain things. Her responsibilities first to her husband. We'll see that. But normally, mitzvahs kibbut aveim or mitzvahs yira is both for boys and girls. Both have to treat their parents with kavod and yira. But things that a father has to do for a son, for example, mila or pidyon ben, that's only on the father, not on the mother. Anything where any mitzvahs say positive mitzvahs which are time dependent, but we know women are part of mitzvahs like shofar, like lulav, etc. If it's not as on grama, it's a mitzvah say that are not dependent on time. Men and women are chayav equally. Chometz is lo saseh. If it's a lo saseh, benches man groma, benches man groma, echad shmei echad shmei. Both men and women are responsible the same way. Chutzmi, what lo sasays are there that women are not responsible? Chutzmi al takev, rounding the corners of their hair, the corners of their hair by the sideburns, that men are not allowed to. You don't have to get one of those monks' haircuts, but women are allowed to. About tashkas, men are allowed to take a razor blade to their sideburns, to their face, and women don't have that lo saseh. About tamei l'mesim, and not becoming tamei. A kohen as an issue to become tamei, right? Tamei l'mesim is not allowed to, but women kohanim, right, with their father is a kohen, there are women who are a bas kohen, they don't have that mitzvah, they're allowed to go to funerals. Kohanim are allowed to go to funerals, but their sisters are allowed to go to funerals. So all this we'll see more described in the Gemara. We'll pick it up here tomorrow. Have a good day. Shavua Tov.
Shavua Tov.